Hi, everyone. Harry here with a fairly quick update on what's going on in the probably most outrageous, cynical, and nasty move by Trump against Harvard University. As you know, he is using every arrow in his quiver and then some, whatever the elves in the Project 2025 little bake shop have cooked up. And about as bad as it gets is the attack on international students. International students are a quarter of Harvard's student body. They actually, many of them pay, so they're important fiscally, but they're very integrated into student life. They are, in the sense they'll do a lot of teaching. I went to Harvard and, the presence of really talented international students is just a very big part of Harvard's successes, including a lot of the research it's done under grants that Trump's also trying to take away. I've said this before, but just thinking nationwide, the United States, by a good margin, has more Nobel Prize winners than any other nation, and yet over half of them were not born in the United States. The general partnership between universities, elite universities in particular, and the whole kind of best and brightest of the world has been a huge engine of growth and prosperity and well-being for the country as a whole. Anyway, this is just where Trump has set his sights as he's trying to do anything he can to cripple Harvard. So he first tried to withdraw the sort of bureaucratic approval that every school has to get in order to have student visas approved. So you want to get a J-1 visa, you're someone overseas wants to study at Harvard. It's all very easy. You fill out your J-1 visa, unless by chance the school you're applying to, kind of alone among the hundreds of possibilities in the country, just doesn't have the box checked to be eligible for this visa program. Then you're screwed, and Harvard's screwed. That's what he tried first, and it didn't fly. What he's tried second is really far worse, more ugly, more cynical. He has, and this is why, in general, my eye is always on the ball of whether courts will defer to his judgments under supposed emergency powers, because that could give the game away to a despot like Donald Trump. Here is what he found. I've determined that the entry of the class of foreign nationals described above, that's the whole shooting match, right? So that's the 7,000, is detrimental to the interests of the United States. Really? Why is that? Because, here we go. In my judgment, Harvard's conduct has rendered it an unsuitable destination for foreign students and researchers. Excuse me? So what he's trying somehow to say is Harvard's wokeness, probably completely lawful, has, and this is the kind of lever he tries to use again and again, and its failure to be sufficiently robust and muscular in its protection of especially Jewish students in demonstrations involving the war from last year. For that reason, see if you can follow this reasoning. And if you can't, then all the more important, courts be in the position to second guess it. For that reason, it's just having them there would be detrimental to the interest of the United States, because Harvard's conduct has rendered it an unsuitable destination. Okay. This is so where are we on this? The judge, District Court Judge Allison Burroughs, who's been the one who's received many of these Harvard-specific attacks. She also is the judge, you'll hear about this from the Trump crowd, who who approved under then applicable law Harvard's affirmative action program that the Supreme Court later disallowed. So, the short kind of headline on that is, she upheld unlawful affirmative action, but that's not neither right nor fair. She applied the law before her. The Supreme Court changed the law and reversed what she had to say. Anyway, she has it. She's made it clear this is totally unlawful, and she's imposed a temporary stay. Okay. The latest development is a 90-minute hearing yesterday on whether to make that temporary injunction indefinite. And she did not do it yesterday. She holds this 90-minute hearing, and she extends her temporary injunction. But she said she obviously is planning to write a thorough opinion. You know, this stuff is going to go up, and from her to the First Circuit, from the First Circuit perhaps to the Supreme Court. She wants to get it right and dot I's and cross T's. So she said, I will rule on this, but maybe next week, we will, she's announced we'll have it, but it'll be a written opinion, obviously a thorough and scholarly one, and within the next week or so. So the status quo is undisturbed. And I think the prospects that this is going to get struck down with more long-standing injunction put in place remain very high. But at least for now, after a 90-minute hearing, the judge said, okay, I'm not doing this today. I'm going back. The way that Judge Breyer kind of stunningly, as I wrote about it then in Los Angeles, went back to his chambers and in 4 hours, like from 6 to 10 p.m., produced this big tome. Burroughs is going to try to do the same, like give herself a normal week or so. And that'll be the actual, statement that then goes up for review to the First Circuit, to the Supreme Court, possibly on emergency basis, which has its own foibles. And we've talked about that before, and sad to say, we'll talk about it again. But the news for now is this. First, just reiterating how totally nasty and vicious and lawless. The Harvard lawyers in court in this 90 minutes said this is the most irregular and improper treatment that a university has ever suffered in the hands of the government. I got to repeat that. And I think, you compare it to McCarthy, but in a way it's worse. McCarthy had this crazy crusade about communists. Trump has this crazy crusade about Harvard University. And so it's the most irregular and improper treatment that a university has ever suffered at the hands of the government. I think that's right. And in any event, Burroughs, I think, probably thinks it's right, and she'll be coming out with an opinion in the wake of this hearing, but it may be, say, a week from now. And there you have the kind of current state of play on this most nasty of attacks against Harvard and its very lifeblood. If somehow they couldn't have international students, that would be an existential matter for the university. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.